The galaxy's worst employee just became its most important person. Jax Carter had a reputation that stretched across at least 3 sectors of the galaxy, and it was not a good one. To most beings, his name was a warning. Never assign Jax anything important ever. Even mundane tasks somehow became disasters in his hands. Yet somehow, he still had a job at Galactic Solutions, Inc., the largest interstellar corporation responsible for managing trade, communication, and exploration across dozens of star systems. Jax leaned back in his swivel chair, letting it spin slowly as he watched a hollow screen display a series of blinking warnings. Most employees would have panicked, but Jax was too lazy, or perhaps too indifferent, to care much. The alarms were minor, probably a misalignment in the automated inventory system, or so he hoped. If it's important, he muttered to himself, someone else will fix it. His workspace was cluttered with alien trinkets he didn't understand, half-empty coffee cups that had long lost their warmth, and sticky notes with reminders he had ignored for weeks. Jax had been assigned to the Galactic Logistics Department, a place where accuracy was supposed to be sacred. For humans, meticulousness was optional. For Jax, it was impossible. His supervisor, a sharp-eyed, tentacled alien named Creel, floated over in his anti-gravity chair. "Jax Carter," Creel said in a tone that carried the weight of universal condemnation. "You have misplaced the cargo manifest again. That shipment of Rylan crystals has been sent to Sector 9 instead of Sector 14. Jax yawned. "Oh, that. Probably just a minor detour." "Those crystals are heavy, though. Hope they enjoy the extra travel." Creel's multiple eyes blinked in disbelief. "Minor detour? Do you even know how much chaos a misrouted shipment can cause?" "Chaos," Jax said slowly, "sounds exciting, kind of like an adventure." Creel did not share this enthusiasm. He simply sighed, floating back toward his office. "I will schedule a meeting with human resources," he muttered. "Perhaps we should consider whether humans are truly suitable for interstellar operations." Jax shrugged. Humans had a bad reputation in this galaxy, but Jax did not care. In fact, he rather liked it. He liked being underestimated. Being underestimated allowed him freedom, the freedom to act however he wanted without constant interference. While the aliens followed strict procedures, Jax improvised. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes, well, not so much. Today, however, was not about the misplaced crystals. Today, Jax had a far more exciting task, or at least he thought it was exciting. He had been assigned to maintain the minor communications hub aboard the Starflare, a corporate exploration ship heading toward the Vorin Nebula. It was a routine assignment, supposedly. He was to monitor transmissions and ensure that messages between colonies and corporate headquarters flowed without interruption. Jax approached the hub with casual curiosity, tapping buttons he did not fully understand. He had watched enough alien technicians over the years to know which levers looked important and which looked decorative. Unfortunately, this knowledge was based more on luck than skill. The hub was a cramped room filled with blinking consoles, wires running along the walls like glowing vines, and a central display showing incoming and outgoing messages across the galaxy. Jax leaned over the controls, squinting at an alien script that made his head ache. "Why do they make everything so complicated?" he muttered. "It's just messages. People talk. Words go from here to there." As he fumbled with a series of switches, he accidentally triggered a minor rerouting of interstellar communications. Messages that should have gone to trading stations in Sector 11 were now being sent to research outposts in Sector 22. Normally, this would have caused chaos, but Jax had unknowingly activated a backup protocol the aliens had built into the system decades ago, a protocol they had never tested. The messages were delayed, shuffled, and slightly scrambled, but they were still transmitted. Jax leaned back in his chair, proud of himself. "See, perfectly fine," he said. It was at that moment that the first real sign of trouble appeared. A small red warning icon blinked on his console. He tapped it, revealing a long list of security alerts he had not noticed before. According to the system, there were anomalies in the energy flow across multiple sectors of the galaxy. Normally, this would be a problem for someone else, but the system had apparently interpreted Jax's minor mistake as a critical alert, and now the higher-ups were watching. "Great," Jax muttered. "Guess I'm about to get yelled at." Meanwhile, far above the clouds of Sector 11, a massive alien research station hummed ominously. Deep within its automated systems, a group of unknown saboteurs had begun altering energy matrices crucial for the galaxy's trade and security networks. They were meticulous, silent, and brilliant. If left unchecked, their plan could cripple interstellar commerce and potentially ignite a conflict among several species. Jax, completely unaware, was the first human to stumble upon evidence of this sabotage. By accident. His clumsy rerouting of messages had inadvertently triggered a security protocol that highlighted the anomalies in the energy network. The aliens in command, who relied on precise logic and routine, had missed these irregularities entirely. Back on the Starflare, Jax leaned closer to the console, idly tapping keys. A blinking notification demanded urgent attention. "System anomaly detected," it read. "Immediate analysis required." Jax scratched his head. Analysis sounded boring. He preferred action, or at least pretending to act. Still, he tapped a few random commands, trying to make the screen stop blinking. To his surprise, a holographic map of the galaxy appeared, highlighting the areas with anomalies. Jax squinted at the display. "Huh. That's weird." He zoomed in on one of the highlighted sectors, where energy flows were fluctuating dangerously. "Not sure what's going on, but it looks like someone's messing with stuff they shouldn't." For the first time, Jax felt a spark of curiosity, not laziness, not indifference, curiosity. He traced the anomalies across the map, connecting points that no alien technician had even noticed. "Wait a second," he muttered. "These aren't random. Someone's doing this on purpose." He didn't know who or why, but the thought excited him more than any risk-free assignment ever had. For once, he wasn't the worst employee. He was seeing a problem nobody else had seen. Of course, Jax had no idea that his casual fascination would soon escalate into something far bigger than misplaced cargo or misrouted messages. The galaxy itself was quietly on the edge of disaster, and somehow Jax Carter, the galaxy's worst employee, was about to play a role no one could have predicted. Hours passed as he continued poking at the consoles. Occasionally, his alien coworkers would drift by, watching him with suspicion or mild horror. "Jax Carter, what are you doing?" one asked. "Nothing," Jax said cheerfully. "Just making sure the messages aren't broken." They didn't argue. They had learned it was useless to argue. Jax had a strange way of either solving problems by accident or causing minor chaos that the aliens had to fix later. In this case, they had no idea they were witnessing the first steps of something monumental. As the ship moved closer to the Vorin Nebula, Jax's console suddenly beeped louder than ever. He frowned. Something in the system was actively resisting his inputs. It wasn't a bug, it was intelligent. He stared at the display. "Okay, that's new." He pressed a sequence of random buttons, half expecting sparks or a system shutdown. Instead, the holographic map shifted, revealing a detailed energy network. Fluctuations were no longer random. They were patterned, deliberate, and coordinated. Someone or something was manipulating the galaxy's energy flow. Jax leaned back, eyes wide. "Wow," he whispered. "This is big, really big." He didn't realize it yet, but that single moment would define the rest of his life. For decades, humans had been underestimated across the galaxy, seen as chaotic, unreliable, and weak. Jax embodied all those stereotypes. And yet, his very unpredictability, the same trait that made aliens despise him, was the key to discovering a plot that could destroy millions of lives. As night fell across the Vorin Nebula, casting the ship in soft purples and golds, Jack sat alone in the communications hub. He tapped a few more keys, completely unaware that he was now the first line of defense against an unseen threat. The galaxy continued to spin, bustling with ships, colonies, and alien bureaucracies. Everyone was busy, important, and serious. And then there was Jax Carter, messy, lazy, clumsy, and utterly human. For once, being human might just be exactly what the galaxy needed. And for once, the worst employee in the galaxy had no idea he was about to become its most important person. The blinking lights of the communication hub reflected in Jax Carter's wide eyes as he stared at the holographic map. The energy anomalies he had stumbled upon earlier weren't random. They were deliberate, coordinated, and fast-moving. His mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Most humans would have panicked in his situation. Most aliens would have immediately reported the problem to their superiors and waited for instructions. Jax did neither. Instead, he leaned closer to the console, tapping buttons and dragging his fingers across the controls, hoping that by pressing the right combination, he might understand the pattern. He wasn't a trained analyst, and he didn't have a manual for alien sabotage protocols. He had nothing but his instincts, which were usually more trouble than help. But this time, his instincts told him one thing clearly: something was very wrong. "Jax," said a voice behind him. It was Vrek, an alien engineer assigned to oversee communication systems. Vrek had a tall, angular frame with skin that shimmered in shades of green and blue, and eyes that constantly flickered with curiosity. "Why are you touching the system without authorization? You could." I know," Jax interrupted, waving a hand. "But look at this. Something is happening in the energy grid across multiple sectors. Someone's messing with it." Vrek's eyes narrowed. "You noticed?" Jax shrugged. "I accidentally triggered the alert. Maybe the system just likes me." Vrek blinked, clearly confused. "Accidentally triggered the alert. Humans are very strange creatures." "Thank you," Jax said. "I try." Vrek floated closer to the holographic map, examining the highlighted areas. "This is unusual," he admitted. "Normally, our monitoring systems would catch irregularities far earlier. Whoever is behind this is precise." Jax leaned over, pointing to a series of spikes in the energy network. "See these? They're not random. Look at the pattern. It's moving from sector to sector in a predictable way." Vrek's multiple eyes blinked in rapid succession. "You're interpreting this correctly." "Of course I am," Jax said, although he wasn't entirely sure. "It's like a puzzle. The pieces are moving, and we just have to figure out why." For the next hour, Jax and Vrek worked together. Vrek tried to follow traditional analytical methods, running simulations and comparing data logs. Jax, on the other hand, ignored most of the procedures and just followed the anomalies wherever they led. Whenever a door locked or a console refused access, Jax would find another route. Whenever a security protocol tried to stop them, he would improvise a workaround, often by pressing buttons in ways Vrek would have considered reckless. At first, Vrek was terrified. Every time Jax did something, Vrek expected alarms, sparks, or catastrophic system failures. Yet somehow, nothing catastrophic happened. Instead, Jax's unorthodox approach revealed a critical insight. The anomalies weren't random energy fluctuations. They were deliberate manipulations intended to disrupt the galaxy's energy distribution, especially along the trade routes. This is serious," Vrek said finally, voice low and tense. "If this continues, entire colonies could lose power, star systems could collapse economically, the trade network could fail." Jax leaned back, eyes wide. "And no one noticed, not the monitoring teams. Not the top analysts." Vrek shook his head. "They are too rigid. They follow protocols and expect others to do the same. No one dares to improvise, no one dares to take risks, Jax smirked. Sounds familiar. Vrek's eyes narrowed. You're starting to look like the only one capable of improvising, Jax froze. Wait, are you saying me? Exactly you, Vrek said. The galaxy may be depending on your human intuition. Jax tilted his head, a nervous grin forming. Okay. That's a lot of pressure for someone who's basically the worst employee ever. Vrek's eyes flickered in disbelief. Worst employee, I see your reputation precedes you, but perhaps your flaws make you uniquely suited for this task. Jax didn't know whether to feel insulted or honored. Instead, he focused on the task. He had always thrived on improvisation, on following instincts instead of rules, and now, apparently, his chaotic tendencies were an asset. The two of them moved to the ship's data interface, connecting to interstellar grids to trace the source of the energy manipulation. Hours passed, and Jax's mind worked in strange, non-linear ways. He noticed patterns that Vrek would have missed, sequences that seemed insignificant but hinted at a larger design. You see this, Jax said, pointing to a small fluctuation near the edge of the mapped sectors. It's like a breadcrumb. Whoever's doing this left traces, probably thinking no one would notice. Vrek leaned closer. You mean someone is leaving a trail deliberately? Maybe, Jax said. Or maybe they just don't care. Either way, it helps. Following these breadcrumbs, Jax and Vrek traced the manipulations to a remote cluster of systems near the Vorin Nebula. This region was largely unmonitored due to its distance and complexity, making it the perfect place for sabotage. Okay, Jax said, rubbing his temples. We found the trouble. Now what? Vrek looked at him seriously. Now we stop it, but it will be dangerous. The systems are automated, protected by multiple layers of security. One wrong move and you could be trapped or worse. Jax grinned. Dangerous. Sounds like another adventure. What's the worst that could happen? Vrek didn't answer. He just sighed. The following day, Jax and Vrek arrived at the outer edge of the nebula aboard a smaller exploration craft. The nebula stretched across space in hues of violet, blue, and gold, hiding the network of automated stations within. The craft shuddered as cosmic winds buffeted them, and Jax leaned against the console, feeling the familiar thrill of uncertainty. Are you sure we should be doing this? Vrek asked nervously. Relax, Jax said, tapping the controls with casual precision. We'll be fine, mostly. They approached a massive automated station, its structure a labyrinth of towers, bridges, and energy conduits. It was designed by an alien civilization long gone, left to operate independently. Whoever was manipulating it had somehow hacked into the system, using its power to disrupt the galaxy's energy network. This is it, Vrek said. If we fail, Jax held up a hand. We won't fail. I promise. He wasn't sure whether he believed it himself, but the confidence seemed to calm Vrek. Inside the station, the corridors were narrow and dimly lit. The air hummed with energy, and holographic panels flickered with information. Jax tapped a console, sending commands to trace the sabotage signals. Each step he took revealed more irregularities, doors that opened and closed without pattern, energy conduits that pulsed in strange rhythms, and security drones that seemed unusually active. Vrek followed closely, analyzing the data meticulously. Jax, meanwhile, relied on his instincts. He noticed subtle signs, scratches on the walls, faint heat traces, and slight irregularities in the energy flow that indicated hidden pathways. This way, he said suddenly, veering off the mapped corridors. Vrek hesitated. Trust me, Jax said with a grin. I'm usually wrong, but sometimes I get lucky. Jax's intuition led them deeper into the station, where they discovered a central control hub. Holographic displays flickered, showing the sabotage in real time. Energy grids pulsed dangerously, fluctuating across the galaxy, and Jax's heart raced. Look at this, Vrek said, pointing at the displays. They're manipulating energy flow from here. This is brilliant. And terrifying. Jack studied the patterns. Yeah, but there's a flaw. What flaw? Vrek asked. The pattern repeats every 30 minutes, Jack said. They think they're being clever, but they're predictable. If we can time it right, we can counteract it. Vrek's eyes widened. You mean we can stop it? Jax nodded. With a little improvisation, yeah, but we have to be quick and careful and maybe lucky. They set to work following Jax's unconventional plan. Vrek handled the technical calculations, while Jax manipulated the consoles in ways that seemed reckless but were oddly effective. Doors opened at precise moments, energy conduits rerouted themselves, and the system began to stabilize. Hours passed, but slowly the sabotage was being undone. Jax's instincts, combined with Vrek's careful analysis, created a synergy that no alien protocol could match. Finally, the energy flow across the galaxy returned to normal. The lights in the station flickered one last time and then stabilized. Jax leaned back, exhausted but exhilarated. "We did it," he said, grinning. Vrek floated closer, eyes blinking rapidly. "Incredible. I never thought a human could." Yeah, Jax said, waving him off. "Don't thank me yet. The galaxy still doesn't know I saved it." Outside, the stars shone brightly. The Vorin Nebula stretched across space, calm and beautiful. For the first time, Jax felt a strange sense of pride. He, the galaxy's worst employee, had just discovered and countered a sabotage that could have caused untold chaos. Somewhere, in a distant sector, aliens were probably blaming each other for missing the signs. Somewhere else, the corporate hierarchy would be scrambling to understand what had happened. And somewhere in the galaxy, Jax Carter was just being human. And that, he thought, was enough. The hum of the smaller exploration craft thrummed softly as it sailed through the Vorin Nebula. Jax Carter leaned over the control panel, his fingers idly tracing circuits that he didn't fully understand. Beside him, Vrek floated in a controlled hover, meticulously studying energy readings and recalculating the anomalies they had just stabilized. Both were exhausted, but neither could fully rest. "Do you realize what we just did?" Vrek said quietly, his voice tinged with awe. "We corrected sabotage that could have crippled half a dozen star systems. And me?" Jax asked with a grin. "I mostly pressed buttons at the right time." Vrek's eyes blinked rapidly, a combination of disbelief and admiration. "Your method, it's unconventional, unpredictable, and it works. Human intuition, perhaps," Jax shrugged. "Maybe, or maybe I just got lucky. Either way, it counts." They had stabilized the energy flows temporarily, but both knew this was only the beginning. Whoever had orchestrated the sabotage had not acted randomly. Their movements were strategic, targeting specific sectors to cause maximum disruption without immediate detection. Jax, by accident, had only slowed the plan. It was still ongoing, still dangerous. Jax leaned back, scanning the holographic map. "We need to find the source. Whoever is doing this, they're smart. They won't just let us fix things and walk away." Vrek nodded. "Agreed. The central hub controlling these networks is ancient, but it is still monitored. If we trace the signals carefully, we may find the origin." They plotted a course deeper into the nebula. The craft passed through shimmering clouds of cosmic dust, streaked with rays of light that made navigation tricky. Sensors beeped constantly, warning of minor turbulence and electrical interference. Jax ignored most of the warnings. "It's fine," he muttered. "The universe has survived worse." Hours passed in tense silence. Vrek's eyes flickered with calculations, while Jax focused on the patterns that seemed to pulse across the holographic map. Every once in a while, Jax pointed out anomalies that the system's sensors didn't flag, subtle variations in energy flow, almost imperceptible but consistent enough to be deliberate. "There," Jax said suddenly, pointing to a dim cluster of signals. "That's our next stop." Vrek leaned closer, scanning the readouts. "Yes, that sector is unusual. Energy signatures match previous manipulations. Whoever is behind this may be stationed there. As they approached the cluster, the sensors picked up a massive structure hidden within the nebula. It was an enormous, abandoned alien station, partially camouflaged by dust and energy interference. Its towers twisted toward the stars like skeletal fingers, and massive conduits pulsed with energy at irregular intervals. "This is it," Vrek said softly. "The origin of the sabotage." Jack stared at the station, feeling a mixture of excitement and anxiety. "Looks intimidating." "Intimidating is one word," Vrek said. "Dangerous is another, and you, Jax Carter, are about to step into both." Jax grinned. "Good, I like both words." Docking was the first challenge. The station's outer defenses were automated and aggressive. Shield barriers and rotating energy fields required precise timing to navigate. Jax, relying on his intuition rather than standard protocols, piloted the craft through gaps that seemed almost too small to pass. Vrek's multiple eyes tracked the readings nervously. "You're taking risks that no trained pilot would attempt." "Trained pilots," Jax said, "don't have human instincts. Watch and learn." Against all odds, the craft glided through the defenses, docking at a hidden port that sensors had barely detected. They stepped onto the station, greeted by corridors darkened by age but alive with faint energy currents. The hum of machinery echoed around them, a low, vibrating rhythm that made the air feel charged. Jax touched the walls, feeling vibrations through the metal. "This place is alive," he said. "Not literally, of course, but it reacts." Vrek frowned. "It is ancient. Automated systems are still partially operational. Someone has tapped into them. Whoever did this knows exactly what they're doing." They moved through the station cautiously, following energy conduits and signal patterns. Every so often, Jax noticed subtle clues, slightly misaligned panels, faint burn marks on the floor, unusual heat readings, that Vrek didn't see at first. "These are signs someone has been here," Jax said. "They're careful, but not perfect." Hours of careful exploration brought them to the central control hub. The room was massive, filled with consoles, holographic displays, and energy conduits running like glowing veins across the walls. At the center, a large spherical interface pulsed with energy, controlling networks that spread across multiple star systems. "This is it," Vrek whispered. "The heart of the sabotage." Jax approached the console, analyzing the holographic displays. Energy flows were still fluctuating, but the patterns were predictable. "See this," he said. "They think they're clever, but they repeat the same sequence every 30 minutes. We can counter it if we act fast." Vrek's eyes widened. You can. You're not an official technician." "I know," Jax said. "But sometimes the rules aren't enough. We need intuition, timing, instinct, and maybe a little luck." Jack studied the sequence, memorizing patterns and predicting the next manipulations. Using his improvisation skills, he began inputting commands that didn't follow any official procedure. Vrek watched nervously as the station resisted their inputs, triggering alarms and closing doors, but Jax adapted in real time. "Now left," Jax shouted as a corridor sealed shut. "No, no other way, there." Vrek obeyed, though with trepidation. Jax's movements seemed chaotic, but they were strategic in a human sense, seeing possibilities that rigid alien logic could not. After hours of tense maneuvering, they reached the core interface. Jax examined it, tracing the energy conduits with his fingers. "It's like a puzzle," he said. "We just need to put the pieces in the right order." Vrek looked at him incredulously. "You're thinking like a human child, but somehow it's working." Jax smiled faintly. "Children notice things adults ignore. Humans notice things aliens don't." Carefully, he began rerouting the sabotaged energy flows. The station reacted, attempting to block their progress, but Jax anticipated the movements and adjusted commands with quick improvisation. Vrek assisted by calculating safe conduits, creating a delicate balance between instinct and logic. Slowly, the energy pattern stabilized. Holographic displays showed the fluctuations returning to normal, and the pulse of the station slowed to a steady rhythm. Jax wiped sweat from his brow, grinning despite exhaustion. "We did it," he said. Vrek floated closer, eyes flickering with admiration. "I never thought a human could accomplish this. You saved countless systems." Jax shrugged. "I mostly guessed, but it worked." Vrek's eyes narrowed. "You underestimate yourself. Humans have a gift, the ability to improvise, to see connections others cannot. You embody that." Jax laughed nervously. "Well, I guess being the worst employee has its perks. Nobody expects me to succeed, so when I do, it's extra surprising." They spent the next few hours securing the station. Jax patched vulnerabilities that had allowed the sabotage, while Vrek stabilized the core systems. Together, they created safeguards to prevent future tampering. As they prepared to leave, Jax paused, looking at the console one last time. "I wonder who did this," he muttered. "And why target these sectors? It wasn't random." Vrek's eyes flickered. "We may never know. But for now, the immediate threat is contained. And you, Jax Carter, are the only one who could have done this." Jax shook his head, trying to stay humble. "I didn't do it perfectly. I just acted differently. Maybe that's all it takes sometimes." Outside the station, the nebula glowed in soft purples and golds, cosmic dust shimmering in the light of distant stars. The galaxy was still fragile, but for now it was safe. As they returned to their craft, Jax felt a strange sense of pride. He, the galaxy's worst employee, had become something else. Someone capable, someone necessary, someone who could act where others could not. Vrek floated silently beside him, a rare smile flickering across his features. "Perhaps humans are not as weak as we thought," he said. Jax grinned. "Told you, humans notice things aliens don't. Sometimes that's enough to save the day." As they prepared to depart the nebula, Jax looked back at the massive station. He didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but for the first time he felt ready. Not because he followed the rules, not because he was skilled, but because he was human, and sometimes, being human was exactly what the galaxy needed. And somewhere, far across the stars, the galaxy began to take notice. The news of the sabotage and its sudden resolution spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Corporate command centers, starports, and even distant colonies buzzed with reports of the near disaster. Every alien analyst and bureaucrat had their own explanation, mostly blaming each other for missing the signs. Somewhere in all those reports, a single name appeared almost by accident: Jax Carter. Jax didn't notice the news at first. He was still aboard the smaller craft with Vrek, returning from the Vorin Nebula. The nebula's glow had faded into the background, leaving a calm, star-studded void. Jax stretched and yawned, running a hand through his messy hair. "So we did something important, I guess," he said casually. Vrek hovered beside him, scanning incoming messages. "Important is an understatement. The galaxy owes you a debt it does not yet understand." Jax laughed. "Debt? I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because, well, I saw a problem and I tried to fix it. Lucky timing, mostly." Vrek's eyes flickered. "Luck may have helped, but it is your human unpredictability, your intuition, that made the difference. You acted where rules could not guide anyone." Jax shrugged. "Rules are boring anyway." As they approached the starport near the Vorin Nebula, alarms suddenly blared across their craft. Incoming transmissions filled the communication panel, all marked urgent and priority 1. Jax frowned, tapping buttons to view the messages. Every display was filled with formal notifications, congratulatory messages, and frantic inquiries from corporate leadership. Vrek," Jax said slowly, "I think we're famous now." Vrek's eyes widened. "You are famous among the galaxy's bureaucrats, at least." "They are calling for your immediate debriefing," Jax groaned. "Debriefing sounds exhausting. Do I have to?" "Yes," Vrek said firmly. "Apparently you have become a person of interest." At the starport, a crowd had gathered, not for Jax personally, but for the corporate officials waiting to escort him to command headquarters. He walked through the docking bay, dodging curious onlookers and alien reporters. Every step felt surreal. This was the same galaxy that had dismissed him as the worst employee, and now they were paying attention. The ride to corporate headquarters was tense. Jack slouched in the chair, fiddling with controls he didn't fully understand. Vrek sat beside him, silently offering reassurance. "Try to remain calm," he said. "Your human composure will be tested." Jax nodded, although his idea of composure was merely pretending to be nonchalant while internally panicking. "Got it. Calm, totally calm." At headquarters, Jax was led into a massive chamber filled with alien executives. The room was stark, cold, and intimidating. Each alien species represented carried a sense of authority that made even the most seasoned humans nervous, but Jax didn't feel intimidated. He felt curious. He wanted to see what they would do next. A tall, silver-scaled alien with sharp eyes stepped forward. "Jax Carter," the alien said, voice echoing. "Your actions, or perhaps accidents, have prevented what could have been a catastrophic failure of our energy networks. Explain yourself." Jax blinked. "Explain myself? I noticed a problem and tried some stuff, mostly guesswork, and luck helped a little." The executives exchanged confused glances. "You are admitting improvisation without authorization?" one asked, incredulous. Jax shrugged again. "Yeah, guess. Sometimes it works." A tense silence filled the room. Then one of the officials, a four-armed diplomat from Sector 11, spoke slowly. "Humans are illogical, unpredictable, but perhaps therein lies their strength. This human's chaos may have saved billions." Vrek's eyes flickered proudly. "Indeed." His human intuition allowed him to see what no alien protocol could detect. Jack smirked. "See, I told you, chaos works sometimes." The executives murmured among themselves. Some were impressed, some skeptical, and some still annoyed that a human had disrupted centuries of procedural order. But the undeniable truth remained. Jax had solved a problem they could not. The conversation quickly shifted from reprimand to opportunity. The executives realized that the galaxy faced threats too complex for rigid logic alone. Someone who could improvise, who could notice patterns others overlooked, was a rare asset. Jax, chaotic and clumsy though he might be, had proven he could be that asset. "Effective immediately," the silver-scaled alien announced, "Jax Carter will be assigned as a galactic coordinator. You will lead teams in identifying and countering threats where conventional methods fail." Jax blinked. "Coordinator, me? But I'm supposed to be terrible at everything." Vrek hovered closer. "Apparently, your terribleness is exactly what is needed. Humans operate differently. They see connections and possibilities aliens cannot. You may be indispensable." Jax rubbed the back of his neck. "Indispensable, huh? That's a lot of responsibility for someone who trips over wires daily." The executives ignored his comment. They saw results, not excuses. The galaxy's safety was more important than protocol or reputation. Over the next few days, Jax learned the realities of his new role. He was assigned a small team of humans and aliens, some skeptical, some eager to learn from him. Their first mission was a test, investigating residual anomalies in nearby star systems that may have been overlooked during the initial sabotage. Jax approached it the only way he knew, by combining instinct, improvisation, and a little chaos. Where his alien team members relied on strict procedures, Jax followed patterns that seemed trivial at first. Small irregularities, an unusual power reading, a flicker in communication signals, a strange fluctuation in planetary energy flows caught his attention. "See this," he said to the team, pointing to a data panel. "The readings are minor, but they repeat in a pattern. Someone's tweaking things slowly, probably testing defenses. If we ignore it, it could escalate." The team listened carefully, some skeptical, some curious. They followed his lead as he devised unconventional approaches to access hidden control nodes and trace energy flows. Jax's methods were messy, confusing at times, but effective. Hours passed as they navigated alien infrastructure, remote stations, and hidden networks. Jax improvised solutions on the fly, rerouting energy conduits, bypassing automated locks, and countering minor sabotage attempts. Every success boosted the team's confidence, even as his unpredictable methods kept them on edge. By the time the mission ended, residual anomalies had been neutralized. The team gathered around Jax, exhausted but impressed. "I didn't know humans could do this," one alien technician admitted. Jax smiled. "Neither did I, but humans notice what others overlook. That's all it takes sometimes." Back at headquarters, reports of their success spread quickly. News agencies, corporate offices, and colonies hailed Jax as a hero. The galaxy, once dismissive of humans, began to pay attention. Across star systems, whispers circulated. The worst employee in the galaxy had just become one of its most important. Despite the growing recognition, Jax remained surprisingly humble. He continued to make mistakes, tripping over wires, spilling drinks, and occasionally pressing the wrong button. But the galaxy no longer focused on these minor mishaps. What mattered was his ability to see, improvise, and act when others could not. The humans on his team began to respect him for more than just his results. They admired his creativity, his courage under pressure, and his ability to remain calm when systems failed. Even the alien team members, initially skeptical, found themselves learning from him, adapting some of his improvisational methods into their rigid procedures. One evening, after another long mission, Jax and Vrek sat in the observation deck, looking out at a cluster of distant stars. The nebula in the distance shimmered faintly, a reminder of the sabotage they had first encountered. "You've changed things," Vrek said quietly. "The galaxy is beginning to see humans differently. Your actions, your instincts, they've created a new perspective." Jax leaned back, exhausted but content. "I just did what I thought was right at the time. I didn't plan to change anything." "Guess humans have a funny way of making a difference." Vrek's eyes blinked slowly, a rare gesture of approval. "Funny, indeed, but effective." Jax grinned. "Effective is good enough for me." As they watched the stars, a new realization settled over him. Being human in a galaxy that underestimated humans was no longer a disadvantage. It was a unique strength, a way to notice what others overlooked, to act where others hesitated, and to turn chaos into salvation. And the galaxy would soon learn that Jax Carter, messy, clumsy, unpredictable, was exactly the person it needed. For the first time, Jax didn't feel like the worst employee in the galaxy. He felt like the most important one. The galaxy had changed in subtle ways since Jax Carter's unlikely heroics. Across star systems, humans were no longer regarded as careless or inferior. Instead, whispers traveled among alien bureaucrats, starport officials, and corporate leaders. Humans could be unpredictable, yes, but that unpredictability often revealed possibilities others could not see. And at the center of it all was Jax Carter, the galaxy's once worst, now most important employee. Jax sat in his office aboard the flagship Galactic Vanguard, a newly reassigned vessel for his role as Galactic Coordinator. The office was modest but filled with consoles, hollow displays, and maps showing active sectors. The humans on his team had taken to calling him boss, though he often reminded them it was not a title he sought. He preferred to think of himself as the one who makes sure nothing explodes mostly. Vrek floated in, carrying a data tablet filled with recent reports. "Jax," he said, "there are new disturbances in the outer sectors, residual sabotage, perhaps related to the first incident." Jax leaned back in his chair, scanning the information. Several systems were reporting minor energy fluctuations, cargo irregularities, and strange power surges. Nothing catastrophic yet, but the pattern was familiar. "Looks like our friend or enemies haven't finished playing," he muttered. Vrek frowned. "This will require coordination across multiple star systems. You will need to lead not just humans but alien teams as well. Can you handle it?" Jack smirked. "I thought I was doing that already. Let's see what we can do." The next day, the flagship left the starport, heading for the outer sectors. Jax's team included both humans and aliens, engineers, pilots, and analysts from diverse species. Many of the aliens were skeptical of his unconventional methods, but the memory of his last success tempered their doubts. "Everyone," Jax began, leaning casually against a console, "here's the deal. Someone is messing with energy flows again. It's clever, subtle, and probably thinking it's being smart, but they aren't, because humans notice things aliens don't." A few team members blinked at him, unsure whether to take offense or learn from him. Jax grinned. "Don't worry, I'll explain as we go, just follow my lead." The first anomaly they encountered was a trade station orbiting a gas giant. Sensors reported minor energy disruptions that could destabilize the station's operations. Alien analysts had examined it and declared it routine interference, but Jax noticed something subtle. The energy spikes occurred in a pattern that matched fluctuations in nearby sectors. "See this," he said to Vrek and the team. "It's like a ripple. Someone is testing the system, seeing how far they can reach without being noticed. If we don't act, these ripples could turn into waves." They boarded a shuttle and approached the station. Jax guided them through docking procedures, improvising adjustments as shields and magnetic fields shifted unexpectedly. His instincts told him which conduits were likely affected. Where alien engineers insisted on following strict protocols, Jax often ignored them and explored unconventional routes, discovering hidden nodes and subtle vulnerabilities. Hours of exploration revealed a hidden control hub beneath the station's main operations deck. The sabotage had been masked carefully, blending in with minor technical glitches. Jax's human intuition noticed faint traces of energy misdirection, subtle anomalies in communication signals, and slight temperature variations in the conduits. "This is clever," Vrek said, examining the system, "but it's also sloppy. Subtle, yes, but not perfect. Your instincts are right, Jax. We can fix this." Jax nodded. "Then let's fix it, but be ready for surprises. Whoever did this isn't finished." They worked through the night. Jax's methods were unpredictable, pressing sequences of commands that seemed random, but actually traced the sabotage's hidden pathways. Vrek assisted with calculations, ensuring that the energy redirection would stabilize the station without causing collateral damage. Finally, the system normalized. The trade station's operations returned to stability, and the team breathed a collective sigh of relief. Jax smiled, tired but satisfied. One down, more to go. Across the next several days, they traced the anomalies to multiple stations and sectors. Each new discovery presented challenges: security drones operating outside protocols, hidden energy conduits, and automated defenses that responded to standard approaches. Each time, Jax improvised solutions where others would have failed. He rerouted energy flows, bypassed security sequences, and discovered flaws in the sabotaged systems that no alien analysis could predict. His team began to trust his instincts, learning that human intuition, though chaotic, was effective under pressure. During one tense moment, they encountered a heavily automated research station controlling a critical energy relay. The station's defenses activated, locking corridors and redirecting power to prevent access. Alien team members hesitated, analyzing every protocol. Jax, however, noticed a pattern in the energy surges, an irregular pulse repeating every few seconds. "Follow me," he said. "Don't overthink it. Just move with the pulse." Using the irregular rhythm, they navigated the station, avoiding automated defenses and reaching the control hub. There, Jax identified the sabotaged conduits and rerouted power in real time. The system resisted, triggering alarms, but he adapted instantly, pressing combinations of commands that no protocol could have predicted. When the energy stabilized, Vrek floated closer, eyes wide. Once again, you've succeeded where logic alone would fail. Jax shrugged. Logic is useful, but sometimes you need a little chaos. Humans are good at that. News of their successes reached the corporate headquarters and distant colonies. Holographic broadcasts highlighted Jax's role, praising his ingenuity, courage, and leadership. The galaxy's perception of humans shifted further. Once dismissed as clumsy and unreliable, humans were now recognized as uniquely valuable. Despite the growing recognition, Jax remained humble. He continued to make minor mistakes, spilling drinks, tripping over wires, and occasionally pressing the wrong button. But the galaxy no longer focused on these lapses. What mattered was his ability to notice patterns, act decisively, and improvise when the stakes were high. One evening, after stabilizing a critical energy relay on a distant star system, Jax and Vrek stood on the observation deck, watching the stars. "You've done more than I imagined," Vrek said softly. "The galaxy is beginning to see humans differently. Your actions, your instincts, they've created a new understanding." Jax smiled faintly. "I didn't plan to change anything, I just acted when it mattered. Humans notice things others don't. Sometimes that's enough." Vrek's eyes blinked slowly. "Enough, indeed. But you've also shown leadership, courage, and creativity. These are qualities even the most disciplined alien minds cannot replicate perfectly." Jax laughed. "Well, someone has to keep things interesting. If humans were perfect, the galaxy would be boring." As they continued to watch the stars, a new realization settled over him. Being human in a galaxy that underestimated humans was no longer a disadvantage. It was a strength, a way to notice what others overlooked, to act when others hesitated, and to turn potential disaster into salvation. In the weeks that followed, Jax coordinated multiple missions, stabilizing sectors, preventing sabotage, and guiding teams of humans and aliens alike. Each success reinforced the message. Human intuition and improvisation were indispensable assets. By the time the flagship returned to headquarters, Jax had earned not just recognition, but respect. Executives, analysts, and colonists alike referred to him as the human who could see beyond rules, who could improvise in chaos, and who could act decisively under pressure. And yet, for all his accolades, Jax remained the same person he had always been: messy, clumsy, unpredictable, and utterly human. He still tripped over wires, ignored unnecessary protocols, and made jokes at inappropriate times. But the galaxy had learned to appreciate him not despite these traits, but because of them. The final test came when a new threat emerged, an unknown anomaly in the energy networks that threatened to destabilize multiple star systems simultaneously. Alien analysts were paralyzed, debating procedures and failing to act. Jax, relying on human intuition and his experience from previous missions, immediately traced the source, predicted its behavior, and devised a plan to counteract it. Using a combination of improvisation, risk-taking, and collaboration with his team, he stabilized the networks before disaster struck. The galaxy was saved once again, and this time, no one doubted that humans, and Jax specifically, were vital. As he stood on the observation deck of the flagship, watching stars stretch across the void, Jax felt a sense of quiet pride. He had gone from the galaxy's worst employee to its most important person. Not through perfection, not through strict adherence to rules, but through human ingenuity, courage, and the ability to act where others could not. Vrek floated beside him, a rare expression of approval in his flickering eyes. "The galaxy owes you much, Jax Carter. You've shown that humans are not merely capable, they are essential." Jax laughed softly. "Essential, huh? I guess I'll take it. But let's not forget I'm still clumsy, still unpredictable, still me. And that precisely, Vrex said, is why you are the most important person in the galaxy. Jack smiled, feeling the truth of it deep in his chest. For all his flaws, for all the mistakes he had made, being human had allowed him to see, to act, and to save countless lives. The galaxy had finally realized what he always knew. Sometimes, unpredictability was the greatest strength of all. And with that, Jax Carter, once the worst employee in the galaxy, became a legend. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again.